I remember the day we stood in the empty warehouse. Dust floated through the air like ash after a fire. My father, Harold Rowe, just kept pacing, clutching a folder of overdue notices and legal letters. My mother, Donna, sat quietly on an overturned crate, tears sliding down her cheeks. The family business, Rowe Industrial Supplies, was dying. Years of poor decisions, risky investments, and frankly, blind trust in my younger brother Dylan had brought it to its knees. I had my own life back then. I was working a comfortable job at a mid-size insurance firm. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills, and I had my evenings, my garden, my books, peace. But family is family. "We need you, Maggie," my father said, his voice cracked, hollow. "You're the only one who can bring this place back. If you do, if you save it, it's yours." It wasn't some emotional plea. It was a verbal contract. My mother nodded, and Dylan, with his usual flair for vanishing when work was mentioned, muttered something like, "Yeah, sure, whatever helps." So I did it. I quit my job the following Monday. I rolled up my sleeves and stepped into the ruins. At first, I was alone. The 2 remaining employees left within a month. They didn't believe in comebacks. I did. I learned things I never thought I'd have to: accounting, supply chains, inventory systems. I cleaned bathrooms, made cold calls, and worked until my back ached so badly I cried in the car before going home. 7 days a week. No vacations, no weekends, no birthdays. My brother? He visited once every few months, always with a smirk, always checking in. His latest girlfriend on his arm, sunglasses indoors, asking if we had any spare cash to help with a business idea. But I kept going. I told myself it would all be worth it. That promise echoed in my head every time I wanted to give up. If you save it, it's yours. And then, last Friday, we broke even. The debts were paid off. We had cash in the bank. Clients were coming back. Suppliers respected us again. I sat in the office, my office, and let out a deep breath I hadn't realized I was holding for 4 years. That same afternoon, my parents invited me to dinner. Donna made pot roast, my favorite, which should have been a red flag. After dessert, Harold looked across the table and smiled. "We're proud of you, sweetheart," he said. "You did more than we ever expected. You brought us back from the dead." I nodded, too tired to speak. Then Donna reached across and patted my hand. "And now that we're on our feet again, we've decided it's time for Dylan to take over the business. He's the man of the family, after all." I didn't speak. I didn't blink. I just smiled politely and said, "Thank you for dinner." But the next morning, I made a phone call. One they never saw coming. I called Claire. It had been years since we spoke, but she picked up on the 3rd ring like she'd been waiting. "Maggie Rowe," she said, her voice low, sharp as ever. "Didn't think I'd hear from you again." "Are you still interested in buying Rowe Industrial?" I asked without a hello. There was a pause, then a soft laugh. "Still waiting for Harold to fall on his sword, huh?" "He just did. I'm done." Claire Townsend used to be our biggest competitor. She ran the 3rd largest supply chain company in the region and offered to buy us out 6 years ago. My father refused, said he'd never sell to a woman who once accused him of stealing a client. He held grudges. Claire didn't. "I want the company," I said quietly, "but not the way they're playing it. If I'm out, I want them out too." "You want me to buy it from them?" "No, I want to force a decision they'll never forget." Claire didn't ask for details. She just said, "Come to my office, noon, don't be late." I hung up and stared at my reflection in the mirror above the phone table. Tired eyes, wrinkles I hadn't noticed before, but something different too, steel in my face, determination. 4 years of silence had hardened me. That afternoon, I walked into Claire's office wearing the same work boots I'd used to scrub oil stains off the warehouse floor. Her space was polished, sleek. Everything mine wasn't. She handed me coffee without a word and sat. "I've kept tabs on Rowe," she said. "Your father doesn't know what the hell he's doing. You were the only reason that company didn't crumble. He's a fool for pushing you out." I nodded. "I don't want the business anymore, but I want them to understand what they did." Claire leaned forward. "What's your plan?" "I'm going to offer them a buyout. Through you. One they can't refuse. They'll take it. They'll think they've won." And then? Then you make me your regional director, full authority, and when they come crawling back 6 months later, I'll be the one deciding whether to pick up the phone. Claire's lips curled into a smile. Now that's the Maggie I remember. We shook hands, and just like that, the wheels were in motion. 2 days later, Claire sent a formal proposal to Harold and Donna. A generous one, more than the business was worth, on paper, enough to tempt them, enough to blind them. They didn't call me, but I heard from Dylan. "What the hell is this?" he barked over the phone. "Why didn't you tell me she was sniffing around?" "You're the man of the family," I said calmly. "Handle it." He cursed, then hung up. And that night, I slept like a baby. The offer didn't take long to work its poison. By Thursday morning, my father called. Not Donna, not Dylan, Harold himself. That alone told me they were panicking. "Maggie," he said, his voice stiff but strained. "We got an offer from Townsend Industries." I said nothing. It's surprisingly generous, and we're thinking about accepting it. Still silence on my end. "I thought you should know," he added awkwardly. I could hear his pride struggling to stay intact. He hadn't called me to share the news. He called because he suspected I was behind it. But he didn't want to ask. He didn't want confirmation that I had found a way around him. "I appreciate the call," I said simply, then hung up. That afternoon, I met Claire at her office again. She handed me a folder, her countermeasure. It was airtight, legal, ruthless. "They're biting," she said. "And once they sign, I'll transfer the business into our holding company. You'll operate out of the same warehouse for now, but with a full team under you. I've already assigned 2 assistants. You'll have final say on local operations." My hands shook slightly as I opened the folder. I wasn't excited. It wasn't victory. It was justice. Quiet, cold, and necessary. The next day, they signed. I didn't go. Claire sent one of her attorneys to oversee it. According to him, Dylan tried to play tough, asked for more money, claimed market rates were higher. But Donna just wanted out. She looked tired. Maybe she finally saw what I had seen years ago. When the paperwork was complete, Claire called me. "It's done. You're officially in charge of the region. Your parents are out." I sat in my car, parked outside the warehouse I had built back from ashes. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just stared at the loading dock and remembered all the nights I had stood there, eating gas station sandwiches at 9 p.m., wiping grease off my hands with printer paper. By Monday morning, word had spread among the old staff and local suppliers. Everyone was confused. Why would the Rose sell now, just when things were turning around? Then they saw me walk back in, not as Harold's daughter, but as the new director of regional operations for Townsend Industries. Jake, one of the forklift operators I had rehired 2 years ago, stood stunned when he saw me. "You're back?" "Not back," I said. "Up." The first week back was quiet. Too quiet. Everyone walked on eggshells, unsure of how to treat me. Was I just a new executive? A spy from Townsend? Or was I still Maggie Rowe, daughter of the old owners, the woman who used to mop the floors after closing? Jake finally broke the silence on Thursday. "You really pulled something off, huh?" he said, standing at the edge of my office door. "Whole place is talking." I looked up from the budget review. "Pulled what off?" He smirked, but not cruelly. "Come on, you know what they're saying. Dylan's been running around town screaming that you sold him out." I leaned back in my chair. "Did I?" "I didn't say that." He shrugged. "Just people are watching, waiting to see what you'll do now." And that was the problem. I didn't know yet. The power was real, but so was the weight. Every decision I made now had consequences, not just for me, but for the 37 people who still worked under that roof. I had fought so hard for control, but I hadn't thought past winning it. On Saturday morning, I received an email. No subject line. Just one sentence. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family." It was from Donna. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because I didn't know what to feel. Guilt? Relief? Anger? She hadn't said a word to me in weeks. Not when she handed the business to Dylan. Not when I was working myself to the bone. But now she had something to say. Claire called later that evening. "They're bad-mouthing you to clients," she said, her tone clipped. "I've already received 3 calls from long-term vendors claiming they don't want to work with a traitor." I sighed. "Let them talk. If they value gossip over contracts, we don't need them." "Spoken like a true director," Claire replied. "But keep your eyes open. The Rows aren't the kind to go quietly." She wasn't wrong. On Monday morning, Dylan showed up. He didn't ask for an appointment. He just barged in, nostrils flaring, skin blotched red with rage. "You think this is over?" he shouted. "You think you've won?" I stood, calm. "Lower your voice, or I'll call security." "You humiliated me, Maggie. I was supposed to lead this company. Me." "You had 4 years to help," I replied coldly. "You chose not to. Now get out." He slammed the door behind him, but not before throwing one last threat. "You don't deserve that office. You're just a bitter old woman clinging to something that was never yours." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. He was wrong, but only about one thing. It was mine now. Dylan's outburst should have rattled me, but it didn't. What shook me more was what I found waiting the next morning. A manila envelope on my desk. No note, no name. Inside, photocopies of internal Townsend contracts, vendor lists, and even a confidential pricing agreement. Someone had accessed Claire's database. I stared at the documents, pulse quickening. I hadn't shared this information with anyone. Only 2 people had the clearance, me and Claire. But it wasn't Claire. The timing, the motive, this reeked of desperation. Dylan's kind. I scanned the office. No signs of forced entry, no missing keys. But Jake later told me he'd seen a delivery guy wandering the hall alone yesterday. "Didn't recognize him," he said. "Said he was looking for the break room." I knew it then. Dylan hadn't just walked away. He was still fighting, just dirtier now. I took the envelope to Claire that afternoon. Her jaw tightened as she flipped through the pages. "Do you want me to go legal?" she asked. I hesitated. The old Maggie would have said no. Keep the peace. Avoid the drama. But that Maggie had been erased, quietly, across 4 bitter years. "Yes," I said. "Let's hit him where it hurts." Claire nodded slowly. "We'll issue a cease and desist, and if anything else leaks, we sue for breach of confidentiality. Let's remind him we're not playing his game. We're rewriting the rules." But even as I felt the satisfaction of reclaiming power, I couldn't stop thinking about Donna. I'd driven by their house once that week. The lights were off in the front, curtains drawn. I didn't stop. I didn't need to. The silence said enough. That evening, Donna called. Not to apologize, to beg. "I don't know what's going on with Dylan," she said, her voice brittle. "He's not sleeping. He keeps saying you're trying to destroy us." I didn't respond. "I just wish you'd told us," she added softly. "You could have warned us." Warned them? Warned them, like they warned me the night they handed my life's work to a man who couldn't manage his own credit card? "I'm sorry you're going through this," I said, keeping my tone even. "But I warned you 4 years ago when I said I was all in. You just didn't listen." I hung up before she could reply. That night, I sat at the kitchen table alone, staring at the same ledger I had built by hand back when we were drowning in debt. Every line, every number, I knew it by heart. I had saved that company once. But now? Now I was saving myself. The cease and desist letter was delivered the next morning. Claire didn't waste time. By noon, Dylan had posted a cryptic message on social media. "Some people think stabbing you in the back is the same as earning a promotion." His usual followers chimed in, vague sympathy, a few cheap shots at family betrayal. But beneath the theatrics, there was something else. He was unraveling. People close to him began reaching out, to me. Melissa Keene, an old supplier and family friend, called that afternoon. "I'm worried about Dylan," she said gently. "He came into my office yesterday, rambled about conspiracies, how you and Claire were out to ruin him, that his own parents betrayed him." "They didn't betray him," I said. "They gave him everything. He just didn't know what to do with it." There was silence on the line. "Maggie," Melissa said, "he's not stable. Maybe you should talk to him." The thought of it made my stomach twist. Talk to Dylan? The same man who let me bleed for 4 years while he partied and slept in? Who walked into my office shouting, then turned around and tried to sabotage my career? I'll think about it, I lied. But that night, I did think about it. Not because I cared about him, but because I was beginning to see how deep the damage had gone. I had cracked something open. Not just in them, in myself too. At 3 in the morning, I found myself standing in the hallway outside my bedroom, staring at an old photo. The 4 of us, Harold, Donna, Dylan, and me, smiling outside the factory gates. I must have been 28 then, naive, hopeful, convinced family meant something permanent. Now, I wasn't so sure. The next morning, Claire called. "We've got a problem," she said. "Dylan's filed a complaint with the Chamber of Commerce. He's claiming the buyout was fraudulent." My chest tightened. He has no proof. He doesn't need it. He just needs noise. They've launched a preliminary inquiry. We'll handle it, but brace yourself. He wants a war. I closed my eyes. I had played this game quietly, strategically. But Dylan wasn't quiet. He was chaotic, sloppy. And sometimes that was more dangerous than strategy. "Do I need to go public?" I asked. "Not yet. But if he escalates, we respond." I nodded slowly, even though she couldn't see me. "I'm not afraid of him," I said. Claire paused. "Good," she replied. "But maybe you should be afraid of what all this is doing to you." I didn't answer, because I already knew. The letter from the chamber arrived on a Wednesday. Official language, cold tone, asking for documentation related to the acquisition. Claire's legal team had already prepped for this, but seeing it in my own mailbox made it feel real. I placed it beside my coffee and stared at it for a long time. That evening, I walked to the old warehouse loading dock, the same one I used to clean at midnight while Dylan was posting poolside selfies. The air smelled like rust and rain. I sat on a crate and watched a delivery truck roll in under the yellow light. For a moment, I felt everything and nothing at the same time. This was supposed to feel like victory, but it didn't. It felt like I was still fighting a war that had already ended, like I was still trying to prove something to people who had already made up their minds. Claire found me there an hour later. "You haven't been in meetings all week," she said, sitting beside me. "Your team's starting to notice." "I just needed to think," I murmured. "I'm not asking for excuses," she said softly. "I'm asking if you're okay." I hesitated. "I don't know." Claire didn't respond right away. Then she said, "You're allowed to be angry, Maggie. You're allowed to feel betrayed. But this thing you're carrying, it's starting to feel heavier than the betrayal itself." I didn't know what to say. I hadn't expected her to see me so clearly. "I don't want to become them," I whispered finally. Bitter, closed off, ready to sell anyone out to keep control. Claire nodded. "Then don't." It sounded simple, but I knew it wasn't. The next day, I called Donna. Not because I wanted to fix things, but because something inside me needed to face it, fully, one last time. She answered on the first ring. "I thought you'd never speak to me again," she said. "I didn't call to forgive you," I replied. "Or to forget." "Then why?" "Because I needed to hear you say it. Say why." She was quiet. Then, "We were afraid. Your father and I. Dylan had already failed so many times. He was spiraling. We thought giving him the business would give him purpose. We didn't think you'd stay after we told you." "I stayed," I said, "even after you broke your promise." "I know," she whispered, "and I'll regret it until the day I die." I didn't hang up. I just let the silence stretch. Maybe there was nothing more to say. Or maybe, in that pause, there was everything. The chamber inquiry closed quietly the following week. No evidence of fraud. No further action required. A 2-paragraph email confirmed it, cold and bureaucratic. Claire forwarded it to me with a simple message. "Told you. Now exhale." I tried, but my lungs felt like they'd forgotten how. Instead of celebrating, I sat in my car outside the building. I watched people filter out, employees laughing, loading up boxes, waving goodbye for the weekend. Life moving on. Somehow, mine still felt paused. Dylan hadn't called since the ruling. No angry voicemails. No veiled threats. Just silence. It was unnerving. Later that night, Claire invited me over for dinner. No work talk, she promised. Just food and quiet. Her home was warm, surprisingly modest. Mismatched mugs, cozy throws on the couch. She opened a bottle of red and handed me a glass without ceremony. "You held your ground," she said. "You won." I didn't feel like a winner. "I didn't want him ruined," I said quietly. "I just wanted them to see me, really see me." Claire's eyes softened. Maybe they did. Just too late. I shook my head. "And now I don't even know if I want them to. I'm not the same woman who begged them for a chance 4 years ago." "You're not," she said. "You're stronger now, sharper, but still human." For the first time in a long time, I let myself cry. Not out of grief, but release. Years of holding it in, of proving, of pushing. Claire didn't say a word. She just sat beside me, her hand resting gently over mine. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't business. It was something rarer, understanding. Later that evening, as I was getting ready to leave, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "He checked into a hospital. Psychiatric hold. I thought you should know." No name. But I knew. It was Donna. I stood there for a long time, holding the phone like it might shatter in my palm. Claire looked at me. "Maggie?" "My brother," I whispered. "He's not well." She didn't say anything, just waited. "I think I need to see him," I said. And I meant it. Not to gloat, not to win, but because somewhere beneath the scars and anger, I still needed closure. The hospital was clean and bright, almost sterile in its silence. A nurse led me down a hallway lined with small rooms, each one a quiet pause in someone else's storm. Dylan was in room 14. He didn't look up when I stepped in. He sat hunched in a chair by the window, a worn sweatshirt clinging to his frame like it didn't belong to him. His hair was unkempt, his face hollow. The Dylan I knew, the arrogant, brash, loud-mouthed shadow I'd resented for decades, wasn't here. He looked small. I didn't speak right away. Just stood there, unsure what I was even supposed to say. Then, without turning, he muttered, "You came to gloat?" "No," I said quietly. "I came because you're my brother." He let out a bitter laugh. "Still playing saint, huh?" I ignored it. "They told me you weren't sleeping, that you were spiraling." He turned slowly. His eyes were red, sunken, but the sharpness, the old cruelty, wasn't there anymore. "I lost everything," he whispered. "I thought if I could just win something back, I'd be okay." "And you thought that would be by destroying me?" He didn't answer. "I never wanted you ruined, Dylan. I wanted to be seen. I wanted what I was promised." "You always were the strong one," he said, almost to himself. "Even when we were kids, you carried the weight, and I just drifted. Mom and Dad, they never expected anything from me. That's why they gave it to me. They thought maybe if they forced purpose onto me, it would stick." "And it didn't," I said, not with malice, but with resignation. "I didn't know how," he said. "I tried to pretend I was ready, but I wasn't. You should have had it. We all knew it, even me." Silence fell between us. "I hated you," he added after a moment. "Because you didn't leave. Because you stayed and proved us wrong." I stepped closer. "And now?" "I don't know," he said honestly. "I don't know who I am without the illusion that I was worth something." "You are," I said. "But you have to find that in yourself, not from what Dad handed you, not from what you tried to take from me." He looked at me then, really looked. "I'm sorry, Maggie." It wasn't enough to erase everything, but it was something. And for the first time in years, I believed he meant it. I left the hospital with no dramatic peace, no tears, just a strange, aching quiet. When I got home, Claire was sitting on my porch with 2 mugs of tea. She stood when she saw me, but didn't speak. I sank into the chair beside her. "I saw him," I said. "And?" "I think I can finally let it go." 2 weeks passed. I didn't call Dylan. He didn't call me. But I checked in with the hospital once, quietly. He was stable, taking medication, participating in group therapy. That was enough. I started coming into the office earlier, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. The place felt lighter now. The bitterness that had lingered like a second skin had begun to fade. One morning, I stood in the break room and poured coffee while Jake chatted about his daughter's school play. I laughed, genuinely, when he showed me a photo of her dressed as a dancing carrot. A year ago, I couldn't have done that. I was too guarded, too exhausted, too angry. Now, I felt open. That Friday, Claire invited me to a private lunch with 2 senior execs from headquarters. The invitation alone meant something. I was being considered for something more. Not because of pity, not because of revenge, because I had earned it. We met at a quiet bistro downtown. It was the kind of place that didn't shout its presence, just existed confidently, like it had nothing to prove. Kind of like how I wanted to live now. The meeting went well. They asked thoughtful questions, listened. By the end of the meal, one of them smiled and said, "It's clear you've got vision, Maggie. We'd like to talk about expansion." Claire glanced at me, subtle pride in her eyes. But she didn't jump in. She let me speak for myself. That night, as we walked out together, she said, "You don't need revenge anymore, do you?" I smiled. "No, I just want peace." She nodded. "And maybe something more." I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't have to. The warmth in her voice said enough. The following Sunday, I visited my old house, the one I grew up in. It was up for sale now. My parents had quietly listed it. I stood across the street, watching from my car. I wasn't sad. Some places aren't meant to be reclaimed. They're meant to be left behind, remembered only for what they taught you. The next morning, I walked into the office and pinned something on the corkboard in the hallway. A photo of me, standing in front of the warehouse, covered in dust and grease, taken 4 years ago. Below it, I wrote one line. "We rebuild. We do not beg." Jake chuckled when he saw it. "That's you, all right." I smiled, then turned to face the day. And for the first time in years, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight, only my own, and it felt light.